What's up guys, Twice here with another deck profile. This is going to be for the amazingly powerful new Dragonic Overlord the Cross. I already did an announcement and analysis video for this. I'll put a link to that video in the description below. It's been pretty widely viewed, so if you are looking for a little bit more in-depth analysis of this card after the deck profile, go ahead and go check that out. But this deck has been pretty awesome. I've used it a couple times online, not too many, probably like 5 or 6 fights, and I really like the way that it runs. So jumping right into it, we run Red Pulse Draco Kid for our starter. He's like the generic starter for Kagero, like every deck runs this card except for maybe the Perditions. But in this deck, it makes a little bit more sense. Counterblast 1, put him into the Soul, check the top 5 for a grade 3, add it to your hand, and then shuffle your deck. So what's great about this card is that, 1, he only costs 1 Counterblast, 2, he lets you get an extra copy of a unit on your Vanguard Circle into your hand. Okay? Any copy of either the End or the Cross, since both of them involve Persona Blast, are going to be helpful. And he also helps you not get grade locked. Plus, if you do manage to get extra copies of the Overlord back into the deck, which you can with Dragonic Burnout skill, who I do run, then you can shuffle the deck again in order to get those cards potentially to pay the cost again. So Red Pulse is definitely a really nice starter for this deck. For triggers, 8 crit. I like the Perditions, they look really cool. Same thing with the heal trigger. And then the 4 draws, I like the 2 Gatling Claws. They've been able to kill starters pretty consistently. And then the 2 R peaks can like boost up rearguard columns if I need them to, or even boost up the center line if I want the end to hit like really, really badly. And then for grade 1s, we run 4 Protect Orb Dragon. I like this new kind of Perfect Guard because it's a little bit more useful, especially for this deck. Unfortunately, this card can only be used to guard Vanguard specifically now. But the upside of that is that if you do have a copy of this card in your drop zone when you activate its ability, then you can turn a card in your damage zone face up. So cost mitigation is always nice. Perfect Guards can now do something other than help you not die, and I really like the fact that in this deck in particular we have access to this card because cost mitigation is essential in being able to use these abilities consistently. Then I run 4 Lava Flow Dragon. Now some people are going to wonder why exactly I do when I don't run Blade Master. This card serves one purpose and one purpose only, to pay the cost of Stride. Because in this deck, the grade 3s that I would usually use to do that are the End and the Cross, both of which I want to keep in my hand for their own abilities. So I need something else in my deck that I can discard a single copy of in order to Stride. And since running G units is like essential now, this card fills that role. He is still a 7k booster, and really like even in my Nova Grappler deck where we have access to I think it's Extreme Battler Arashid who does the same thing, I really only use that card for this particular purpose. Getting Victor or getting Blade Master is nice because you get those cards on the Vanguard Circle more consistently, but paying the cost of Stride with a single card is why this thing exists, and why I personally believe that they're going to be much more popular in the meta. And then we have 4 Dragon Monk Gojo, who is amazing in any Kagero Legion deck. Rest him, drop and draw, helps fill up the drop zone, 7k booster, ideal grade 1 ride because if you're going first, then it's not a wasted turn. You can use this card to just cycle through more cards. And yeah, he's Gojo, he's classic, you gotta have him. Then 2 Calamity Tower, Soul Blast 2, draw a card. I like it because I have more draw power in the deck and I can fill up the drop zone a little bit faster. The 5k base is still useful. And, I mean, in the end, he just fills a nice small role in the deck that has been decently helpful. Then on to the grade 2s. So I was kind of unsure as to what exactly I wanted to run for the deck, but I think this has worked out pretty well. 3 Twilight Arrows, Genbreak 1, Counterblast 1 when he attacks a Vanguard. If he's boosted, may pay the cost. If you do, choose one of your opponent's grade 2 or less rear guards and retire it. So, first of all, yes, this card is a Generation Break, but it's only Gen Break 1, so you only have to Stride once in order to get this card's ability, which you are going to want to Stride at least once in a game anyway, because it's just so good. For 1 Counterblast, the fact that he can retire pretty much anything worth retiring on your opponent's field makes him really helpful. Plus, I think he looks really cool. Anyway, then I run 4 Dragonic Burnout. I'm really glad that this card is relevant again in the meta, because this was one of my favorite cards from the Rebirth deck. Soul Blast 1, when he's placed on the rearguard circle, if you have a Kagero Vanguard, choose a card with Overlord in its card name from your drop zone. So in this deck, it could either be the End or the Cross. You put it into the bottom of your deck, and if you do, you Soul Blast that one card, and you choose any one of your opponent's rearguards and retire it. So yes, he's a really nice card. a nice 9k base. Otherwise, he looks freaking awesome. And the fact that he can put other copies of Overlords back into the deck and even build up the drop zone if necessary is what makes him an all-around really helpful card for this deck in pretty much every way. Then 4 Burning Horns, 12k attackers. He's not bound by a generation break, which is nice. And I'm always going to have an Overlord on the Vanguard since Stride units get the name of the card in the heart. Okay, either one. It could be the End or the Cross. They're both Overlords. So yeah. Moving on to the grade 3s now. This is where the deck really functions. Most decks in this meta now rely on their G units to really be like the things that push for game or the things that drive the strategy of the deck. In this deck, it's a little bit different. It's exclusively the grade 3s that really do most of the work, like the vast majority of it. But still, we have 4 the Cross and 4 the End. Since they're both Persona cards, you want to run as many copies of each of them as you can, and since it's a Legion, you also have to run 4 of each, which you pretty much always will be anyway, but the actual skills like this Legion is incredible. So the Cross is the one that actually is the Legion card, but Legion 22k with the End, when this card Legions, you search your deck for 1 copy of a card in your Vanguard circle, so it could either be him or the End, put it into your hand and then shuffle your deck, which is really nice because, I mean, if you do have to re-Legion and you have copies of Overlords on the bottom of your deck, you do have the potential of shuffling it, but Red Pulse really is the only thing that will do it effectively. But his secondary skill is what makes him amazing. Counterblast 1 and Persona Blast him. So at the end of the battle that he attacked, it doesn't matter what he attacks, if the attack did not hit during that battle, you pay the cost if you do, choose up to 2 of your opponent's rear guards, and retire them. So this card, what's really awesome about him is that he makes a lose-lose situation for your opponent. Because here's how it works. So if you have the full Legion, and you attack, if your opponent does not let the attack hit, then you can punish them for that and use the Cross's ability, Counterblast 1, Persona Blast, retire 2 of their units. If they do let it hit, then you can use our good old friend Dragonic Overlord, the End, to stand the entire 22k base Legion of the 2 of them. And since that is an official ruling of the entire Vanguard restands, it means that you create, again, a lose-lose situation for your opponent. Now, you do have to have your hand set up pretty well in having a copy of both the End and the Cross in order to use this effectively, but again, like, there's nothing bad that can come out of this scenario. There's only good things that happen for you and only bad things that happen for your opponent. And, I mean, look at this Legion. These are 2 of the coolest looking cards in the game, and you really don't want to be facing down a Legion of the 2 of them on the Vanguard circle. It's an awesome deck. I'm glad that both of them are 11k bases, because, I mean, even if I'm sitting on the End, he's still the End. He's a card that even if he hits a rear guard, will be able to restand with Twin Drive. That's the reason this card has stayed relevant since Season 1. Now, granted, he's had a little help in the past, but still, he's a really good card. And the fact that he has a Legion now, who looks amazing, just makes it even better. But as for the G units, I run 4 Mahmoud. He's the basic G unit. When his attack hits, retire a rear guard. He's there pretty much just for the triple drive check and the 26k base. But he's the thing that you want to stride first because the next card is Imperial Flame Dragon King Root Flare Dragon. I don't know what it is with Kagero lately in these really long names, but still, stride skill is choose a face down card named himself from the G zone and turn it face up. That's kind of how all the main G units are paying their costs, is by flipping copies of themselves over in the G zone. And if the number of face-up G units in your G zone is 2 or more, which is why you want to stride Mahmoud first, then you choose one of your opponent's rear guard columns and retire all the rear guards in it. So he can retire up to 2 units, that's really nice. This deck doesn't really have a problem with retiring units. It's really just a matter of what do I want to use and when. Do I want to use G units and just discard copies of the Cross, or the End, or even of Lava Flow? Or do I want to use one of their abilities and kind of bluff my opponent or put some immense pressure on them? There are a lot of options in how you run this deck, and that's kind of why I like it. And it's immensely powerful. This deck is ridiculous in pressure, and it's really good at retiring rear guards. Like, very consistent, and at a pretty decent cost level. Like, it's not that hard to do what you want to do without having to pay a lot in costs. So yeah, really like this deck, really powerful. I hope that it does keep Legion relevant, or definitely give Bushiroad an incentive to keep making them, because I'd like to see other older cards like the End come back with retrofitted legions like the Cross. So anyway, hope you guys enjoy. I certainly do. Remember to always have a great day, keep card fighting. We will see you next time. Goodbye.